It was February 2021 in a quiet neighborhood on the northeast side of Portland, Oregon, when I moved into a narrow two-story townhouse that shared walls with identical units on either side. The place felt perfect for a single night shift dispatcher like me. Cheap rent, new appliances, and a landlord who lived out of state and rarely bothered tenants. The first week was routine. I slept most days, worked 10-hour evenings, and spent late nights gaming with friends in a small upstairs office that overlooked the street. One morning after a snow flurry, I heard what sounded like slow breathing behind the drywall near my desk. I paused my headset, held my breath, and leaned close to the wall. The noise ceased. I blamed a vent or settling pipes and shrugged it off. 2 nights later, I was on a call with a coworker when something tapped 3 times inside that same wall. Soft but deliberate. My coworker heard it through my mic and joked about ghosts. I laughed, muted the line, and knocked back. Nothing replied, so I kept working. Over the next few days, subtle things felt off. A half-full coffee mug I left on the kitchen counter was empty the next afternoon, spoon gone. A fresh pack of gum vanished from my coat. The thermostat rose 5 degrees while I slept, even though I never touched it. I assumed exhaustion made me careless. One night after shift change, I drove home in a freezing drizzle, climbed the stairs, and smelled peppermint near my office door. The missing gum lay chewed and flattened on the carpet. I flicked on the overhead light, and the breathing sound returned, ragged, steady, inches from my ear on the other side of the drywall. My hair prickled. I pounded the gypsum with my fist. The breathing paused, then retreated deeper into the wall, fading like a receding tide. I grabbed a hammer, located the nearest stud, and knocked small exploratory holes between studs, expecting rodents or a broken duct, but saw only fiberglass insulation. The breathing was gone. I patched the holes with tape, vowed to sleep at a friend's house, but work and fatigue pulled me back into routine. The following weekend, my downstairs neighbor, a quiet woman named Elise, caught me at the mailbox and asked if I had heard scratching at odd hours. She thought raccoons lived under her floor. I mentioned my breathing noise. We laughed nervously and went our separate ways. That night around 2 a.m., while gaming, my office door eased open on its own. No draft. I locked it usually, but maybe I forgot. I walked to the door and noticed faint scuff marks along the jamb, like it had been pried. My stomach twisted. I barricaded the office with a chair, grabbed a flashlight, and inspected every closet. Nothing. I considered calling police but had no proof beyond noises and gum. I moved a heavy dresser against my bedroom wall that faced the adjoining unit, hoping to muffle any disturbance, and tried to sleep. At 4:17 a.m., my phone alarm blared, though I never set one. On the screen, in the alarm label field, somebody had typed, "Wake up." I jumped out of bed and saw the dresser sitting an inch from the wall, dragged aside. A fresh hole, fist-sized, gaped behind it. Inside the cavity, a narrow gap ran downward between both units. Cold air spilled in. I shoved the dresser fully against the wall to block the hole, grabbed my keys, and fled to the parking lot. From my car, I dialed 911, feeling ridiculous yet terrified. 2 officers arrived, searched both townhouses with landlord permission, found no one, and chalked the hole up to vandalism. They advised adding extra locks and motion lights. The landlord hired a handyman who screwed steel plates over every wall cavity and promised it was secure. 2 uneventful nights passed. On the 3rd, I returned from shift at 6 a.m. to find my front door ajar, chain dangling. Inside, every light was on and the air stank of sweat. I crept upstairs. My bedroom dresser had been pulled away again. The steel plate lay on the floor next to 4 small footprints in sheetrock dust, too small for an adult. Beneath the desk chair, I found a crumpled grocery receipt dated 2 hours earlier from a 24-hour store down the road. Items: crackers, juice, cough syrup, children's multivitamins. I turned and saw something move inside the gap, just a quick shadow retreating downward. fury flickered through fear. I grabbed my phone, stuck my arm into the opening, and snapped a photo with flash. The image showed a narrow crawl channel between studs, dusty plywood floor, and, in the distance, a small boy, maybe 10 years old, pale, wide-eyed, finger pressed to lips. I backed away, heart racing, and summoned police again. They arrived in minutes, pried off more drywall, and discovered a crude ladder of scrap wood leading to the crawl space above the first-floor ceiling, then farther to the basement of the vacant unit next door. In that basement, officers found a makeshift camp. Blankets, plastic bins of snack food, piles of children's books, and a cracked tablet plugged into extension cords spliced into my power line. A woman's winter coat hung on a nail. A single sleeping bag indicated someone else. Police canvassed the neighborhood and soon caught a gaunt woman hiding behind trash bins. She confessed she and her son had been squatting inside the walls for nearly 3 weeks, slipping out at night for supplies, slipping in while I worked, learning my schedule through vents and my phone alarm she paired to her stolen tablet. They picked my place because renovation gaps let them travel between units unseen. She said they never meant harm, they just needed warmth. Yet she also admitted listening to me breathe through the walls helped her son sleep. Hearing my life, she said, made them feel like part of a family again. The landlord sealed every cavity with concrete foam, but I never felt safe after knowing eyes watched while I slept. I broke the lease, moved across town, and taped over every vent before my first night there. Sometimes at work, I still hear faint breathing in headset static and picture that silent boy behind drywall, finger to lips, asking me not to wake the walls. In October 2020, I inherited my late aunt's split-level house outside Asheville, North Carolina, and moved in to sort her belongings before winter came, so every evening after my shift at the hardware store, I boxed books, wiped dust, and tried to ignore the echo that traveled through the vent shafts whenever the wind shifted, because the house sat on a slope. The lower level backed against the hillside, and a narrow crawl space ran the length of that buried wall. I never liked dark, tight places, so I left it alone. The first week passed without trouble, except for a faint, earthy smell seeping through the carpets like wet leaves. Then small things disappeared. A screwdriver from the kitchen junk drawer, a pair of wool socks from the laundry basket, a half loaf of bread. One rainy night, the power flickered and the furnace kicked on early. The ducts clanged and I heard something else. A light thud beneath the living room floor, followed by a slow scrape, as if cardboard slid across plywood. I tapped my foot 3 times on the hardwood and the scraping halted. I laughed at myself and chalked it up to settling, but the smell grew stronger. Next morning, while sweeping the lower hallway, I noticed tiny wood curls beneath the baseboard near the crawlspace hatch. Someone or something had pried at the trim. I pulled a flashlight, lifted the hatch, and aimed the beam inside. The crawlspace stretched 20 feet, ending in darkness. The beam caught piles of acorns, feathers, and broken plastic toys arranged like a nest. Shivers crawled over my skin. I slammed the hatch and pushed a dresser across it. That evening, I bought motion detectors and set one at the hatch door. I also installed a padlock for good measure at 3 a.m. The detector chimed on my nightstand. I bolted upright. Heart racing, I crept downstairs, bat in hand. The dresser had shifted 2 inches outward. The padlock still latched, but the hatch looked swollen around the edges as if pressure from below bowed the wood. I pressed my ear against it. I heard slow rhythmic breathing. No animal ever breathed with such control. Each inhale timed each exhale, soft and patient. I whispered for courage, though no one could hear me on impulse. I drove 2 nails through the hatch frame, anchoring it to the joist, then slid the dresser tight. I tried to sleep on the couch upstairs, but dawn never felt farther away. Over the next 2 days, nothing happened yet. The air in the lower level stayed cold even when the furnace roared. Footprints of sawdust appeared near vents. I called a pest removal service. The tech crawled under the exterior deck to inspect access points. He found none. He suggested maybe raccoons entered before my aunt added lattice. But he looked puzzled when I mentioned breathing. He left motion traps. I went to work that night, anxious when I returned at 6 a.m. I found the exterior lattice panel ripped free. Screws scattered the crawlspace hatch inside the house untouched, but a new smell curled up the stairs, onions and cedar mixed with rot. I followed it to the laundry room vent cover on the wall. Faint fingerprints smeared across the paint, 3 parallel lines descending. I grabbed my flashlight again, forced myself to open the vent. The duct ran only 4 feet before turning into brick. Yet inside lay my missing socks, a screwdriver, the bread crust, and a photo of me asleep on the couch taken from the loft railing. I staggered back, knees weak. Someone lived inside my walls and watched me. I drove to a motel and called the county sheriff. Deputies arrived, sealed the house, and swept every room. The official report claimed no intruder, found no signs of forced entry beyond the ripped lattice. They blamed raccoons. I convinced the landlord to let me install security boards the next evening. Deputies gone. I sat in my truck across the road, staring at the dark windows, deciding whether to burn the place down. A sudden glow flickered in the attic, fan vent. A cell phone light swaying slow. I watched, frozen. The beam drifted side to side, then vanished, when I gathered nerve to cross the yard. Silence greeted me inside, but a new item waited on the hall table. My aunt's antique brooch, polished and pinned to a yellow sticky note. The note read only 2 words, neat crooked handwriting. "Welcome back." Panic snapped something inside me. I grabbed a hammer, a portable floodlight, and pried the interior crawlspace hatch loose. Nails screaming, the smell rushed out, stronger, damp and metallic. I clicked the floodlight. Its beam fell on a narrow tunnel, freshly dug past the foundation into the hill. Plywood panels leaned against dirt walls, creating a crude hallway. Children's drawings taped along the boards, stick figures standing under clouds. One figure always larger, head blacked out with scribbles. At the end of the corridor, a wider chamber opened, lit by battery lanterns. In that chamber stood a twin mattress, piles of clothes, canned food, and dozens of Polaroids pinned to string. They showed me in every room, sleeping, eating, brushing teeth. One image dated 2 nights earlier displayed me hammering nails into the hatch behind that photo. Hung another of my aunt smiling in the kitchen timestamp. 12 hours before she died of a supposed heart attack, chills iced my spine. A small pocket journal sat atop a crate. I flipped pages. Cramped entries detailed how the author loved the house long before my aunt bought it, how walls kept them safe from outside poison, how the new man I was would learn to live together because the house liked sharing its heartbeat. My flashlight flickered, footsteps rustled behind plywood. I turned but saw only shifting shadows. I backed toward the crawl opening, floodlight dimming. The breathing began again, right at my neck, but when I spun nothing, there I sprinted up. The corridor, scrambled through the hatch and slammed it, bolted dresser, padlocked hatch, threw every heavy object I owned against it. Then I ran for the street. My tires sprayed gravel as I dialed 911. Shaking this time, deputies found the tunnel and the chamber, but no occupant, just lanterns still warm. They sealed the crawl with concrete and advised installing cameras. I sold the house at a loss, disclosed nothing. I rent a 3rd-floor apartment, now triple-check closets, and still sometimes wake to find sticky notes on my countertop. 3 words this time, I never left. In March 2024, I accepted a short-term teaching contract in rural Hutchinson, Kansas, and rented an aging 1-story farmhouse 5 miles from the school. So the first night I unpacked boxes and noticed every room had extra return vents mounted low on the interior walls, more than any HVAC system needed. The realtor said the previous owner liked good airflow, and I laughed and forgot it for a week. My evenings were quiet, dusty sunsets, yard full of crickets. Nothing strange until a Thursday after grading papers, when I heard a faint whisper drift from the hallway vent. It sounded like a radio far away. I knelt, pressed an ear, and caught only a soft breath. I assumed wind and moved on 2 days later while brewing coffee. I saw one of my socks lying on the kitchen floor, rolled tight with a sewing pin through the cuff. I had not sewn anything, and I lived alone. I tossed it, thinking static cling had carried the pin from a closet. But unease lingered that night. I streamed a late movie and dozed on the couch around 2 a.m. I woke to a cool draft. The hallway return vent stood open, cover unscrewed, and leaning beside it, a narrow slot led into darkness. I grabbed my phone light and shined inside. Dust drifted in the beam, but nothing moved. I screwed the cover back on and rationalized perhaps a contractor left it loose. Sunday afternoon, I drove into town for groceries. Returning near dusk, while unloading bags, I noticed new footprints in the flowery dust of the mudroom. Small, bare feet, prints pointing toward the pantry, which sat opposite another return vent. The cover on that vent was different, slightly bulged like something pressed against it from inside. I reached out, and the metal flexed inward, then sprang back. I felt a pulse of air, warm and slow, as if exhaled. I grabbed a hammer from the tool drawer, but when I tapped the vent, the warm breath stopped. I forced the screws free, shone my flashlight. The duct bent sharply into a cavity between studs. A glint caught my eye. Inside lay my missing television remote, wrapped in dental floss along with a half-eaten granola bar. Someone had stashed supplies in my wall. My pulse raced. I drove to the sheriff's station, filed a report. A deputy followed me home, walked the rooms, saw the removed vent, and frowned. He said animals sometimes collect objects and offered to set traps. I doubted any raccoon unscrewed metal plates, but I was tired and let him work that night. I barricaded the bedroom door with a chair, tried to sleep earbuds in. Yet just after midnight, vibration rattled the mattress, tiny taps beneath the box spring. I leapt up, yanked the mattress aside, and saw a fresh hole cut through the floorboards, no bigger than a football. It aligned perfectly with the return vent on the wall beneath it. Faint light leaked up from below, as though a flashlight pointed at the subfloor. I crouched, listened. A whisper floated up, simple breathy words, counting slow numbers. 1, 2, 3, then silence. I fled to my car and drove to a motel. Come morning, a pest team arrived, removed baseboards, and revealed a hidden crawl tunnel hugging the entire house perimeter. Carpentry scraps lined the passage, soft as cushions, and dozens of peepholes bored through studs looked into every room. As we examined further, the technician pulled out Polaroids tied with string. Each photo showed previous tenants sleeping, eating, brushing teeth, date stamps spanning 6 years. One image depicted a family of 4 at dinner, unaware of the lens pressed through drywall. The sheriff obtained a warrant, and we descended into the main air handler room beneath the floor. There we found a wooden cabinet nailed to joists. Inside sat a weathered spiral notebook, pages filled with neat lists. Toothpaste, 1 roll, bandage, 2 cakes, cookie wrappers, 4, and several crude drawings of the house above, arrows pointing to bed couch, shower. The last pages detailed a schedule, my weekday alarms, my grocery trips, my streaming nights, each marked with a smiling stick figure, arms open. The technician whispered, "Someone lives here still then." From deeper in the duct network, we heard the soft slide of a grate, metal on metal. The deputy shouted, a warning crawled forward, but the passage curved and vanished after 10 tense minutes. They found only empty space leading to an exterior vent pried open. Fresh footprints in mud ran toward a cornfield. They lost the trail at a drainage ditch and never found the person. In the weeks that followed, I packed boxes while deputies kept patrol, yet the house remained restless. Some mornings, a vent cover lay ajar. A new sock or spoon vanished one evening before leaving for good. I heard the counting again from the living room return vent, slower this time. 4, 5, 6, each number drawn out like a lullaby. I did not look. I loaded the last box, drove away, and never returned. The farmhouse sits vacant. Now realtor sign, sun bleached a single vent cover, always hangs crooked, and locals claim if you stand close at night, you will hear gentle counting in the dark, as though someone still keeps inventory of every heart that passes through the walls, hoping a new tenant will make the house feel occupied once more. Your walls feel thinner now, don't they? If these hidden dweller stories made you glance over your shoulder, tap like, share with a friend who sleeps soundly, subscribe, and smash the bell so you never miss the next knock from the dark.